And in Europe, Russian troops reportedly hitting the city of Soledar 86 times as fighting intensifies in the Donbass region. While officials say Russian capture of the city is expected, Ukrainian officials say that Russia is suffering massive losses. And even if they take over the city, it would be a drain on their resources and manpower. For the latest on the war effort, let's bring in foreign correspondent Jim Lechner, who is live in Kyiv. Jim.
Well, good evening from here in Kyiv. The city here and across the country continues to experience significant impact on the power infrastructure and electrical and heating systems, with an average of 10 to 12 hours a day of blackouts and reduced heating across the board. We can tell you from where we're at here in the city center in Kyiv, we've experienced 18 hours without power over the last 24. These problems continue as you go east, and as you mentioned, are exacerbated by the fact the Russians are mounting a significant offensive on the Donbass salient. They're putting pressure from the south and even from the north side, where the Ukrainians previously this fall had made major advances. The Russians have now gone back over to the offensive on the north side of the Donbass salient. But all eyes are on Bakhmut as the Russians have focused their efforts there over the past 4 to 6 months. Having suffered tremendous casualties and failing to take the city from the east and the south, the Russians are now pressing on the south side of the city and especially to the north, forcing the Ukrainians to extend their thin lines and commit resources away from the city's defense. The Russian tactic is now to focus on the city of Soledar, just to the north of Bakhmut. This will allow them to cut the last major road that moves into the eastern portion of the Donbass salient, essentially cutting that area off. There'll be one major road after Soledar is taken, if it is taken, that leads to the north to Kramatorsk that will support Bakhmut. So reports we're receiving are that the Russians are fighting in the center of Soledar, and the Ukrainians are attempting to hold that road, but the outlook does not look good for them. Again, this will allow the Russians to get a major foothold to the north of Bakhmut and put more pressure on that beleaguered and besieged city. Back to you.
All right, Jim Lechner, thank you very much, sir. According to the British Ministry of Defense, capturing Soledar is an attempt by Russia to take control of the Bakhmut region from the north and disrupt Ukrainian communication abilities. But they also say that stable Ukrainian defensive lines and supply routes are making it unlikely to take over the city anytime soon. Here to talk more about the fight on the front lines, former FBI agent Michael Grimm. Mike.
Well, good afternoon, Bob. And as Jim Lechner just said, excellent reporting by Jim on the ground, by the way, as always. Let's dive in a little bit more here. Why Bakhmut? Why does that seem to be important to the Russians? When you look at this entire area, this is Ukraine in comparison to the rest of Europe. Kyiv is essential, but we're looking in this red area here. Right in here is this Donbass region that we keep talking about. Bakhmut is extremely important because it's a crossroads. This is an area that has been logistically extremely important to the Ukrainians, all of their supply chains coming in through these roads. So again, right here, this is your Donbass area. Luhansk on the top, Donetsk on the bottom, and Bakhmut right here. We're talking about Soledar right now. So let's just be clear. Is Russia taking Soledar, or are there paid transcripts, if you will? You know, they've been bringing in mercenaries. The Wagner Group are really the ones that are doing all the fighting right now in Soledar. But they need to be careful. They're taking astronomical casualties right now. Word on the ground is that they're leaving their dead behind. Now, why is that important? You know, having been in the United States Marine Corps and having served in combat, I can tell you morale of your troops is extremely important and can make the difference when you have serious fighting like you have over here in Soledar. So if they are, in fact, leaving their dead behind just to be left in the streets, that's going to have a major effect on those soldiers that are fighting. They're wondering, are we just being treated by our leadership like animals, or are we valued soldiers? So why do they also want Soledar? Not only because it will help them take Bakhmut, which is logistically important, but they also have over 200 kilometers of salt mines over there, which they have tunnels that were created to mine the salt. These tunnels, we don't know how much it goes in, but obviously that would also help them with taking Bakhmut. So Bakhmut is where we're looking. Donbass region, Soledar, very important. Mercenaries losing a lot of their troops. We'll see how it all plays out. Back to you.
All right, Michael Grimm, thanks so much.